Hello and welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you are new here, my name is Carrie and I talk about faith, family, and kids videos. Today is going to be a kids video. We're going to go over how I set up for homeschool and how so far I've been able to be successful in homeschooling the 5 kids that I nanny. I nanny a 5-year-old, 2-year-old triplets, and a 1-year-old. And I homeschool them all. And I actually homeschool them all under mostly 4-year-old material. So let's get into it.
What's there to say? There's nothing but space in between you and I.
So I bought this off of Amazon and it expands and it's amazing. It's like the best file thing I've ever seen. The fact that it expands like this is just so crazy. I actually keep it in a bin, but just for ease of showing you some things, I kept it out. First things first, this is where I used to keep all my visuals. This is just a bag of a bunch of plastic bags. But if you know me, you know that I'm not a huge fan of using plastic. These are the family that I nanny for. They bought these, and I was using them to store my visuals in. In the curriculum, they do a lot of games. They do a lot of learning games, but as well as like review games. And they're just things that keep the kids' interest, but allow them to still be doing school and practicing things that they've learned. Well, I hated using all this plastic. I hated it, and I hated it. I will say it was easy. So like I have this clear bin and this long stretchy thing over here. It fits inside the bin, and then I had these up front so that whenever I needed to get visuals, I could see through the plastic of that and through the plastic of this what visual it was. But it was basically like all in a big pile. So I was trying to think, okay, what could I use that is a little bit more eco-friendly and also allows me to like find what I need faster, because as the years gone on, I have had to make more visuals or cut out more visuals and put it all in these bags. That's why there's so many of them, and it was just getting to be a lot. So I made an envelope system, and basically this box is actually from like Melissa and Doug puzzles, and it wasn't getting used for anything except storing toys. So I just relocated the toys and then put the envelopes in here. I have these little post-it tabs, and that's what I put on the envelopes. I've just basically put everything in alphabetical order and labeled them just like that. Now I will say the only downside to that is while most visuals are flat, I do have some that are like lollipops, and they kind of take up a lot of space. I have a couple others that are just too big to fit in the envelopes. So I have some sailboats, some butterflies, and some ice cream cones, and I've just put those in plastic bags. And I will say that huge bag of plastic bags that I already like wrote in marker on, I'm going to be reusing for other things. So I do not plan on just chucking that whole thing. That would be irresponsible. So let me just show you real quick how I have this set up. Alright, so in here I have Monday through Friday, and I just put like, it's not set up right now because this week has been kind of crazy, but I just put the day's papers and any visuals in there. And then everything else in here is just used to store the books that they're using and the visuals that they're using. So I laminate everything. I highly suggest that you invest in a laminator. They're super cheap, and getting the sheets are not that expensive. It does make it worth it because the visuals stick on better and it just lasts longer. So I use 2 different forms of attaching things to a game board. So I have this magnetic tape It looks like this, and I have only been able to find it at Hobby Lobby, but I think my nanny mom actually got this on Amazon. So I will try to link it below and find it for you, but this is the best stuff ever. So regular magnets are super chunky, but this is literally just looks like tape, but it's magnetic. So I put that on the back of these, and I have a magnetic easel. The other side of this is a whiteboard, and it's magnetic. Eventually I want to get a whole chalkboard that's magnetic, but this is only my first year doing this. So I've been a teacher before, so I've taught a kindergarten class, I've taught a first grade class, I've taught preschool, like 2-year-olds, I've taught 12 to 18-month-olds. So I have had classrooms before. It's just like my first year here doing this. So my one recommendation when you're using this tape is when you are using it on the pieces. Like for example, I'm just gonna use these apple blossoms. I have like a tree visual. I put a lot on the back of them because little hands moving these, they're not gonna stick like super well unless you like know how to like press and hold. Kind of, it's just easier for little hands if you put as much as you possibly can on the back of these, and then they stick really well, even like on top of the visual. So for example, I'd use them on this tree, and I move the tape to the other side, okay, and then this sticks on here really well. The curriculum that I use is a Becca book. I think it's the best curriculum for the younger kids. I know that there are other curriculums out there that tend to be better or maybe more aligned with what you believe in if it's older material, but with them being so young and me basically just using the K4 material, this is really well done. And I say that because I grew up on it. So K4 through 12th I did a Becca book, and then when I went to college and got my degree in early childhood education, technically in elementary education with an emphasis in early childhood, so I could teach up to 6th grade with this material. But we used a Becca book in our learning of how to be a teacher. So yes, unfortunately they did only teach us how to teach from their curriculum, which is a little sketch, but you know, I worked for a Becca book even for a little while. So yeah, I don't have to agree with everything that they do, but I will say that this curriculum is one of the only curriculums out there at this age where they teach you to read, and they really challenge the child academically to be the best that they can be and pushing them to their potential, whereas a lot of other curriculums are just like coloring and maybe doing some random workbook stuff that's not actually like teaching the child anything except for like how to work in a workbook. So this is one of my favorite curriculums for this age group. I use binder clips to hold my flashcards together. Everything else is pretty much just held in here. As far as setting up, so the kids do say the Pledge of Allegiance every morning, and you'd be surprised at how well 2-year-olds can say the pledge. Just saying, like, give it a try. So then I put the alphabet up here, and I refer to that during phonics time. I wish I had bigger cards, but this works. And then I keep this up for the 4-year-old. We're doing writing with just the, with the 5-year-old. We're doing writing with just the 5-year-old. So for this number chart right now, they're only having us count to 20. So it didn't tell me to do this, but I remember teachers back in my school doing this with the chart. I think it's really smart so that the child is not confused or focused on any other numbers other than the ones that you are currently learning and counting to. So I have just basically used the same color as whatever's behind it and covered that up. So I also have this map that I actually got from like the Target dollar spot a couple years ago, And on my own outside of the curriculum, I am teaching the kids the states, and they love it. They love being able to point out. So far we've only learned Tennessee and Alabama. I just put this map up, so this easel is easier for kids. I will try to link one. I love that this one has a magnetic whiteboard on it. And I've just got a huge pack of Expo markers, and they are great. You will use a lot of painter's tape. Whenever you're not using the magnetic tape, the painter's tape is what I use to put stuff on the walls. So that's what's holding up all of these visuals. This is the only side that's magnetic, so if this side is taken up with things like this, then I will put it on this side and just use tape. So I've got the painter's tape on there and painter's tape on these. It's definitely a learning curve, but the kids are used to handling both the magnetic pieces and the painter's tape. I would suggest, if you're going to do homeschooling, to invest in a magnetic chalkboard. You can get one that's this size for like 50, 60 bucks. It's not that much. But if you get a real chalkboard, you can use chalk markers. Just make sure like you don't leave them up forever. Like make sure like you clean off your chalkboard at least once a month. But whenever you're teaching writing, it would really help you out if you did use the chalk markers, because these lines right here with the houses, the lines themselves actually stay up pretty much every single day. And what you do is you write what's going to be on the kids' paper, and then you go through it one at a time, and you show them, and then you talk them through it. So these lines stay up, and as you can imagine, like, it can be kind of annoying to have to like erase and rewrite the lines every time. So I do try to like just erase where the letter is and then write in anywhere on the line where it got messed up at. So that is one suggestion that I would make, investing in that. And then that way you won't have to have like a separate easel, but it does help having that, because I can really focus using the board with the 5-year-old. And then the easel is mostly used for like the games that I do with everyone. So with Abeka, you get a curriculum that basically tells you every single thing to do. If you end up doing the Abeka K4 curriculum and you would like for me to send you some visuals that I've made, comment down below and I'll try to put those on my website or something. But basically most of your visuals are going to be made by Abeka, and you just have to like punch them out, laminate them, cut them out. You're done. But there are some things in here where they're like, make the apple blossoms that you saw, or make a train, or whatever. And I've been able to find some free things that helped me, so I would want to pass that along if you're doing this curriculum. For homeschooling in general, these are my suggestions. I would suggest that you pick a time of the day where you know that you can do academics every single day at that time slot. It doesn't have to be a big time slot. Think 15-30 minutes max. Most like little ones are not gonna sit that long, so I would try to keep it to the 15-20 minute mark, but keep it consistent, and also keep the space consistent. So pick a space in your home where you can set up a bunch of stuff, and then that is your school space, even if it's a little place on the wall. For a little while we actually did it in the dining room, and we just had a tiny little corner that we did school in, and it worked, and the kids knew when they were there they were at school. I would suggest buying little chairs and a little table if you can. That is going to help the child to pay attention better if they're sitting in a chair versus sitting on the floor. I have done circle time with this same group of kids about a year ago, and they did well with circle time for their age. At the time they were 1.5, 8 months, and 4 years old, so doing circle time in that setting was a better option. But now they're old enough where they can sit up straight, they can fold their hands, they can pay attention, and they are learning. These 2-year-olds and even the 1-year-old can sometimes be better than the 2-year-olds because of the early start that I gave him with circle time. Well, I'm not going to say that's the only reason. He could just like have genius genes, but it does help doing all those things earlier on. So the earlier that you can get this kind of stuff in, the better. what I do is I have learning numbers with Button Bear, which is the 2-year-old curriculum with the Becca book. And basically anytime that the 5-year-old has like an ABC 1, 2, 3 page, I also let the 2-year-olds and 1-year-old do a learning numbers with Button Bear page, and that way they're doing things that are at their level when it comes to workbooking. So that's the only thing I would suggest, is if you do decide to jump ahead and push your little ones to do the 4-year-old material, then I would make sure that you step back in the workbook side of things. But otherwise, like a lot, probably like 75% of the things that I am teaching the 5-year-old with the 4-year-old material, the 2-year-olds and the 1-year-old is picking up on it, and they're getting it. All of them can tell you the entire alphabet, its name, its sound. Many of them know like the picture that we use to help them remember what this letter says. They all know how to count from 1 to 20, of course, and even I think they can actually go from 1 to 30, just because in play the 5-year-old does that and the others just kind of copy him. I'm not going to say the 2-year-olds are going to be able to read. I don't think that's going to be able to happen, but I do think that I'm going to be able to set a foundation so that when they're 3, I might get them reading. So that's really awesome. They're already starting to read blends, but they at least know letters and sounds and numbers and really just all the important things. When you are first teaching writing with 4-year-olds, I highly suggest getting these pencils, and I will link them below. They are triangle shaped so that the child does a better job with their pencil position. For crayons, for the 2-year-olds and the 1-year-old, I use the jumbo crayons, and they're really easy for the child to hold. And I use regular crayons for the 5-year-old. But that's what I would suggest. And I wouldn't worry too much on like how they're holding their crayon when they're 2. But maybe when they're 5, like definitely try to work on that with them. So I got this box off of Amazon, and I think it's supposed to be like for arts and crafts or something. But the box like came with 5 individual boxes, and I put the colors in here that the kids are going to use the most from that box. And then I did like find cute little Etsy stickers to stick on there. So this has been really great. Though even the 1-year-old is proficient at opening this up and then picking out the color that I said to get out, and then they close it, and they have a system down. They know what to do with these, and that gives them a little bit more control, independence, and excitement about what they're doing. You can use anything for that, like for storing your crayons. You could even just use the regular box. This was just a way for me to organize all the crayons, and the kids can access them easier versus trying to dig them out of a box where they only see the top or the bottom of the crayon. Here is my laminator. I will find it on Amazon and link it below. If you do have a chalkboard, I suggest you get a spray bottle. It just helps things to stay clean. I don't use an actual eraser. This is a microfiber cloth, and it's supposed to be like, I got it at a teacher store, but I'm pretty sure it's not too different than any other regular microfiber cloth. If you do just have a whiteboard, you would also need a spray bottle, because I would suggest when you're doing the writing lines to use wet erase. That way you can dry erase for the letters and then the lines stay up there. Personally, I do think that since I have the child practice tracing and writing on the board, that it is easier for them to do chalk versus the whiteboard, because the whiteboard markers are going to be a little bit more slippery, and when they're learning how to write cursive, you want them to go nice and slow. I also would invest in, I say invest, they're not going to cost like hardly anything, but get some stickers, because you'd be amazed at how just one little sticker can really encourage a child to be sitting up straight and listening and paying attention. I also would suggest getting some markers that are just for you. I have several different kinds. I like the ultra fine point Sharpies, so I will link those below. You can also use the Crayola ones, and then I have some permanent markers from Sharpie that are like brush strokes ones. I want to do something a little bit more dramatic on a child's paper, I'll use the brush stroke one. But basically, like, anytime they have a paper, I either try to put a sticker on it or try to mark on it with like a happy face or a star or a heart. And they just think it's so amazing. And let me tell you, these 2-year-olds and this 1-year-old can color inside the lines. And if there are 4 ducks on a paper and I show them to color 1 duck at a time, they will follow directions and color the duck I said to, and they color it in all the way. So they're 2 and they're 1. The 1-year-old even does that. And it's because I've encouraged them by showing them over and over with repetition. Repetition is the key to learning. But also, I encourage them with stickers. So the first time that I caught one of them paying attention and coloring the right duck, okay, I put a star next to it and I tell them why I'm doing that. I say, you colored in the right duck, good job. So if you have any other questions about homeschooling in general, please feel free to leave your comments below. Also follow me on Instagram, because sometimes I put some polls on there and try to figure out what you guys would like help with. Again, I do have a degree in teaching, so that helps when it comes to this kind of thing, but I would love to help you out in any way that I can think of. I know this was just like a little overview and kind of a little bit of everything, and also about the curriculum I use. If you need help scheduling or knowing like what activities to do, please let me know. You can comment below, but also DM me on Instagram. That's a good way to reach me. One last thing I will say is this is not the only kind of educational and academic thing that we do. I also do Montessori activities, art, separate coloring. I do practical life skills. So yesterday I crumpled up pieces of paper on the floor and I taught the kids how to sweep using that method, and I put that kind of stuff on my Instagram too. I do like little fun reels and stuff like that where I show you what I do with the kids that day to give you ideas as to what to do with your little ones. So if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button below. It helps me out. Thank you so much for watching today, and I'll see you guys next video.